Today I have with me the presidential candidate for the People's Progressive Party Civic with me, the Honorable Mr. Irfaan Ali. And today we will be discussing the rising cost of living. Mr. Ali, thank you very much for being here with me. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, and it's my pleasure to be here as we discuss this very important issue in our country today.
Yes. Since 2015, we've witnessed the rise in taxes, $88 billion, more than $88 billion rise in taxes per annum. We have seen $1.6 billion being spent in food allowances. Meanwhile, over 30,000 Guyanese have lost their jobs. Cost of living has skyrocketed. Healthcare, education have all rapidly declined. As the PPP's presidential candidate, how do you plan to tackle all of this?
Well, Suzanne, you've said so much in so little time, but you have really covered what our country is facing today. And over the last few months, I've been visiting various communities and interacting with persons, some of whom are directly affected as a result of various policies of the government that has either taken away income from them, taken away their ability to earn, and taken away their ability to provide for their families. And it is a sad reality of our country today. The cost of living issues go beyond social welfare and goes beyond social programs. The impact that various policies the government implemented has had on families itself is destroying basic fabric of our society. Family life is being destroyed. Community life is being destroyed. And if you look, it is all about the philosophy. When the People's Progressive Party Civic was in government, our approach to growth and development was a poor approach to growth and development. So whilst we focus on building the economy, whilst we focus on creating wealth, we also spent a lot of time to ensure that there were social safety nets, that there were programs and policies that helped the smaller person in the society, as one would put it, to ensure that all layers of society benefited from the economic progress and development of our country. Against the philosophy now we have where the economy we know is not performing, and the government has resulted in taxation and wasteful spending. We have seen targeted programs to help the vulnerable and poor. We have seen cuts in those programs, and those programs being reduced, and the money transferred to extravagant spending of dietary in government, bloated security services, and so on. So over the last 4 years, what we have really seen is approximately $13.7 billion directly taken away from different segments of our society, whether it be children, the elderly, women, and Guyanese families. For the elderly, children, and women has really felt the blunt of the misguided policies of this government. So, as you would have asked me, how do we intend to tackle this? How do I intend to tackle this as a presidential candidate of the People's Progressive Party? There are some very important and basic things that we must do as soon as we assume office. We have already spoke about immediate fix to address the job scenario. As you would have mentioned, we have lost more than 30,000 jobs in our economy. It's far more than 30,000 jobs in the economy. And if you look at that is more than 30,000 families by itself. And then the extended impact of that. For example, in Wales, you have an entire market that has gone dead. There is no vendors there anymore. So you're talking about an additional 150 persons who are vendors and who operate in that market, who today has access to no form of income. And they are linked directly to the cash crop farmers and the other farmers in the canal polders and the Bell West areas. And this can be said for Kanji, this can be said for Essequibo, all over our country. So there are some immediate things that we will do. We already spoke about reopening the sugar estates. That will help to create income, that will help to have the issue of disposable income and spending power corrected in a number of these communities. Then we have $8.5 billion that was taken away from our children, the school children, the cash grant. We are going to immediately look at reinvesting in our children this $8.5 billion to start with, because that was a $10,000 per child, the grant, and we were looking at taking this up over a period of 5 years to $50,000 per child. So this is going to help mothers, it's going to help single parents, it's going to help women, it's going to help it's going to help families. We're talking about creating a room, a space for $8.5 billion to be invested in the economy, in children and into families. And then you look at what has happened with the electricity and water subsidies. Over a 5-year period, we're talking about water subsidies for the pensioners, the elderly, of $2.5 billion that has been taken away from pensioners. So we also have to ensure that we return this. And these are things that would be done immediately. That as presidential candidate, I can say that we're going to do this almost immediately when we get into office very shortly. So you're talking about another $2.5 billion in subsidies for water. But beyond the subsidies for water is the issue of VAT that was added on electricity and water. And this has had a tremendous impact. I know before we started today, you were discussing with me some of your own personal experiences in relation to electricity and water. We went on outreaches recently in Berbice, in Linden, in Essecubo, where persons are coming to the meetings with their water bill. And from last year to now, some of these persons have a 25 to 30% increase in those bills, and electricity rate also. So we're going to remove the VAT on electricity and water. We're also going to ensure that $2.5 billion in water subsidy is reinstated. So these are things that you can almost immediately do to address the cost of living issues. And look at what is happening according to the Consumer Price Index. What we have seen is that the cost of essential goods and services on the rise. Food, clothing, transportation services, education, personal care, medical services, it's all on the rise. And there is a static movement in salaries. Persons are becoming unemployed, and basic essential commodities, basic essential services, the cost of those services is on the rise. So this is causing even additional hardship at the community level.
Right. A lot of the things you spoke about were policies that were there before. So would be so easy for the PPP to reinstate. People can look forward to that because they know it's quite doable. These are not empty promises. The PPP has done most of these things already, and you can only improve upon that, and of course expand on your plans. I myself, as you mentioned, I feel that cost of living has gone up because I know what I used to spend at the supermarket every week, and I know that figure has moved dramatically. So I understand exactly where you're coming from, and that's why this is so important that we let the Guyanese public know.
You see, Suzanne, it has, as I said earlier, to do with the philosophy of the government too, and what approach you take to development. And that is why our approach is pro-poor approach to growth and development. So it focuses on ensuring that while you grow economic wealth, while the private sector develop, that the other segment of society is not left waggling behind, but that enough safety nets and assurances are there to help them and to ensure that they too benefit from the prospects of our society and economy. And there are other things, and it is not only going back to some of the initiatives that would have helped so many families. It is improving those initiatives. It's about advancing those initiatives, building upon them. So those are starting points, right? It's going to get better. That is just a starting point that we are committing to, and you will see this in our manifesto. Look at some very simple things that has also been taken away. The joint services. You're talking about close to 9,000 families who are affected by any decision concerning the joint services, and their bonuses was taken away. One officer told me that he utilized his bonus to buy a freezer, and he's using that freezer at home to supplement his income because he's selling chicken. And the freezer helped to keep the chicken throughout the week, and he sells the chicken. And he tells me that has been able to supplement his family income to the extent that he pays his monthly mortgage out of that small business. So we're talking about the reinstatement of this bonus. And look at what is happening with our small, the vendors. We have seen the vendors now have to pay the vending license fees has increased by $53,000. These are small people. These are the smaller folks operating in the economy. So you're going to see us removing that increase and restoring it back to the small amount that it was. It was $12,500 and it went all the way to $65,000. And these are for vendors, right? $53,000 more of disposable income. That is $53,000 more of hardship you're bringing on these vendors. Some of them, because of the performance of the economy, are finding it difficult even. Look, in Lenora Market, my office is right there. There are many vendors who come at the end of the market on Saturday and say to me, we didn't sell enough produce to pay the transportation to take back the produce to Purica or to take back and what happens? What happens is that they have to leave the produce. The produce is spoiled. And then you have farmers who today are asked to pay between 100% to 4,000% increase in land rental rate. In some cases, it has increased from $2,500 to as much as $265,000 per acre. These are things that are directly affecting the circumstances surrounding families' ability to live in our society and the cost of living. And that cost has to be translated. It has to be passed on somewhere else. Every time you add an additional cost on the movement of container, or you add an additional cost on the wharf for in taxes or fees or license, that cost is passed on down to the consumer. And on the other hand, we are seeing disposable income drying up. We are seeing that consumer spending is on the decline. So it's a real issue facing our people, and I'm mentioning some of the things that we're going to do immediately to help to address this issue. The removal of VAT on essential services, the reopening of the sugar estates, as I mentioned earlier, and look at what is happening with the housing sector. We have to ensure that we build a program that will make home ownership easier, remove the hardship as it relates to home ownership, remove all those VAT on building materials, because you build equity in the society. Families are the greatest beneficiary when home ownership is made easier.
Right. I was coming to that because I know you have a plan for job creation, but I was wondering, what do you have particularly in store for women? Because women are directly affected by this, and so women are interested in what does Mr. Irfaan Ali have to offer? Not only yourself, but women like to know that there is somebody in government who cares about them,
right,
and who cares about their family.
Right. So first of all, we must acknowledge the fact that women play a stabilizing role in our society. In many instances, women are the head of the family, they're head of the household. We have difficulties facing different categories of women. A woman who's a pensioner is different from a man who's a pensioner. There are different circumstances. Then you have the issue of women who are the main breadwinner of the family. So we have to have targeted, and I'm going to demonstrate to you, or I'm going to say to you some of the targeted initiatives that I would pursue in relation to the development of women, the advancement of women, ensuring that they benefit from the economic development. And some of the things we have to do is to ensure that women play a key role in the economy, whether it's entrepreneurial training, and we're going to focus a lot on entrepreneurial training for women. And one of the things that we must do to aid entrepreneurial training is access to capital. And this is something that has affected women a lot. When we go on the outreaches, women would complain to you that they're not getting loans, they can't get grants, and they have different ideas. They have various initiatives. For example, when we had a uniform allowance for school children, we had in the Amerindian areas, because indigenous women also face different circumstances.
Right.
They used to sew the uniform, and so they benefit from the cash that came in from the uniform. So it was linked to an entrepreneurial program, and then we put in the capital to invest in the sewing machines and so on to help them. So we have to, what we will be doing, as we did in the past, is define some strategic initiative. One, we're going to make easier access to loans. We're going to have grants, special grants to help women. You know, we had a Women of Worth initiative.
Right.
We're going to develop special grants, special funding, look at medium and small size enterprises, and there are funding available for medium and small size enterprises, and to see how we can push businesses that women are interested in. And with the whole push of ICT, having women involved in the ICT sector, training them, retooling them, giving them the necessary skill to function in that sector, will also improve their prospect and ability to earn and to contribute to the greater disposable income in their families. So we also have to look at ways in which we can encourage women beyond small businesses, beyond small enterprises, out of the business environment, because women also today are becoming very qualified. They're outstripping men in terms of academic and educational upliftment. So the younger women also, we have to ensure that they have equal opportunity, that we create an economic frontier that would bring benefit to them, whether in accountancy, using ICT to create new opportunities in financial services, and so on, are some of the initiatives that will see better prospects for women in our society.
Right. And, you know, Guyana is on the cusp of dramatic change with the advent of oil and so on. And everybody wants to know how are we going to benefit? Nobody wants to be left behind. Everybody wants to play a part in the new Guyana and in the hope that you offer.
Well, that is why we have to ensure cost of living issues are addressed, because, you know, when the economy changes, and if you do not address in a philosophical way issues of cost of living and bring some sort of balance in where the economy is going and where the different segment of the society is, then you can have inequality gaps, and we don't want that. So that is why the approach that I'll pursue to growth and development will be a pro approach to growth and development, so that as a society advances, as our economy advances, so too must social safety nets, so too must policies in relation to the protection of children, protection of families, protection of women, and ensuring that their prospects, their future, is also adequately addressed as the economy grows, as wealth expands, and as the society becomes more accustomed to higher level of wealth and revenue as a result of oil and gas.
Right. Now, there have also been so many social problems in our society, and studies have shown that the loss of jobs is a direct link to many social problems: alcoholism, domestic abuse, domestic violence. We see this every day. How does the PPP plan to help alleviate some of that suffering?
I'm happy you raised that, but let me say this, and sometimes people say that those are the softer issues, but I think those are hardcore issues when you go into the communities. I'll give you a few examples over the months that I've been out in the hinterland regions to understand the impact. Now, when you say to someone that the CSO's got a stipend of $50,000 or $40,000, it sounds very small to you. But when you go into these communities and you understand what it meant to those 2,000 Amerindian youths, and not only them, to the families and the community they came from, because those are resources that was reinvested back into the community. So you had a flow of resources into the community. And when you go and you talk to the families and they tell you how bad it is, when they say to you that they don't get health care, or over the last couple of years, essential medical supplies, they don't come, or when they come, they're almost expired. When they say to you that as a result of the mining sector contracting, in terms of the number of dredges contracting by 40% over the last 4 years, and most of them had children or family member who used to work in the mining sector and is no longer working, and the impact it is having on them and their ability to provide essential things like food for their families in the hinterland region. It's heart-wrenching. We went to communities in Wales and Kanji, where persons, families are thinking about drastic decisions of having their children dropping out of school. These are things that we do not want in a modern society. In a society like Guyana, we have to show empathy and care for our children and families. Families are the fabric of our society, and cost of living issues affect families tremendously, and most times it is the women and children who feel the brunt of this. You have, in some communities that we went to, you had an entire street disconnected from water because of the increases. They couldn't pay the increases in terms of water. In Hog Island, I can tell you, I was in Hog Island. We had farmers who are leaving 40,000 pounds of pumpkin in the field to rot. Why are they leaving it there? Because there is no market, and the market is paying $5 per pound. That cannot even compensate for the reaping of the pumpkin. So you have farmers, and then they're asked at the same time to pay increased rates for drainage and irrigation services and land rental. So the effect of, and this is government policy, this is how government policy is affecting people. The sugar workers, the rice farmers. You had rice farmers who lost their entire crop with the paddy bug infestation, and there is nothing from the policy makers, there is nothing from the sector to bring any help to them. And they're suffering, their families are suffering. When persons' ability to earn and their disposable income is reduced or affected, it is not only the family that would suffer, but it is community, as we have seen in instances where the sugar estates were closed down in Wales. The entire place has become a ghost town. Every economic activity in that community has basically came to a standstill. The same in Kanji, and the same in so many areas. In Linden, when the call center was closed down, you had 200 persons who went unemployed. That is 200 families who were getting an income as a result of that investment, who right away went on the breadline, or their ability to earn was completely removed. The same for the community forestry workers, and all these persons who were attached in some way or the other to the mining sector as a spin-off of what was happening. All right? So the struggle is real, as you would say. The struggle is real. Many families, many women will tell you that what they're spending in the markets now, as you would have said, is sometimes twice or thrice as much, and the basket is half full than it was a few years ago. So first of all, the difficulty is that we have a government that seemingly do not want to acknowledge this problem. We have, as presidential candidate, I've acknowledged that we have this problem now, and there are strategic interventions, some of which I've mentioned to you, that we're going to pursue, that are going to address directly the issues of cost of living. We have to reverse all those taxes immediately. That would bring back about $155,000 on an average to a family. That would help in their disposable income, and that addresses cost of living issues directly. Uniform allowance, transportation allowance, these are things, removal of VAT on electricity and water, giving back the water subsidy to pensioners. These are things that affect cost of living and cost of living issues directly. And as I said, as the economy grows, as more resources comes in, this is just a starting point. You will see more initiatives, many of which we'll announce in the manifesto. You will see a greater level of investment into the social safety nets to protect our people and ensure that all of Guyana, all our people, all Guyanese benefit from the prospects of our country.
Well, you have certainly said a lot in a short time. It's a lot to digest. I thank you so much for being here today. What I will say to you in my parting comments is the Guyanese public, we've been so disappointed with this government, and especially women and young people. So we look to you as future leader. Please continue your work on the ground. Listen to the people. We want to support you. Everybody is behind you. You know, you have our full support. Just don't leave our people behind. Be with us as you are with us now on the ground.
Thank you, Suzanne. And this is something that you can be assured of. The going on the ground, visiting the communities and talking to people, interacting, has really given me a first-hand appreciation.
Sure, it has humbled.
And of course, it's a humbling experience. It's a traumatic experience for people sometimes, because I had a team with me of many young people, and some of them were affected by some of the stories that were told. Mm-hmm. And these are not families. You had, for instance, a group of taxi drivers who came to meet us, and they said to us, "Listen, we have our vehicle. We bought this vehicle years ago, and our ability to repay our mortgage now is gone. We can't even pay the mortgage now. They're either having their taxis repossessed, and then their ability to provide for their family is affected." So at the center of this cost of living issue is the family and how the families are affected. And families are really the foundation of our society. We have strong families, then we have a stronger society. We have a stronger society, we have a more prosperous country. So these are things that we have to work on. And Suzanne, I can assure you that I will continue to work. I look forward for your support and the support of all of Guyana. Yeah. Together we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. Together we're going to ensure that all of us as Guyanese, all Guyana, benefit, and all Guyana would become a better place. So I assure you.
All of us deserve that, and all of Guyana deserve that.
Thank you very much.